Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Brain Cancer Podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about some of the quite sleazy frauds and scams that are unfortunately quite prevalent in the cancer community. We're going to talk about some of the commonly used labels and marketing strategies, and we're also going to talk about one or two of the most notorious of these fake cancer cure peddlers, if you will. But before we get into that, I just wanted to say thank you for tuning in, and I've gotten some great feedback on the show, and I have a few more topics to cover in the next few episodes, and I've also invested in some foam acoustic padding to put behind my microphone setup, because right now the room that I'm in, I'm set up in a corner and the walls are very hard, so it reflects a lot of the audio back towards me and it gets picked up by the mic. And so I went on Amazon and I picked up some of the foam pads to put up behind where my boom arm is set up. And for this episode, I just put up a hoodie that has a lot of fluffy insides to see how that works as a temporary solution to reduce some of the background noise and make it a little bit less echoey. And I'm also going to fiddle with some of the settings in Audacity when I'm editing this in post. So hopefully I can get the sound quality up a little bit better for you guys. I had planned to record this episode last night, but then I remembered that AEW's Double or Nothing was last night, so I kind of watched that until almost midnight, and then it was a little bit too late for me to start recording. But it was a great distraction in a very difficult week, not just for the world, but for, if you're a fan of pro wrestling, there's recently been 2 deaths just this past week in the pro wrestling world, and it was a great show that just provided a lot of entertainment for 4 hours, and it was a great way to spend my Saturday night. But other than that, things have been going pretty well, at least for me during this pandemic situation. I don't have to be back at the hospital till June 8th, and I do plan to record an episode that evening as well, just like I did last time. But I am definitely going to have another episode out before that as well, because I'm trying to make sure that I put out at least one episode a week. It's just I have to get myself into this habit, because that's the only way that I'm going to get better and more comfortable with doing it. And hopefully you guys can bear with me as I'm still learning this. And I know I've been saying that, and I think that I'm getting better, but it still might take me a little bit. But before I go rambling on too long, let's go get into the topics for today. So before we get started, we're going to have to get a few definitions out of the way. We have what are known as alternative treatments or complementary treatments. Now, I am on cancer.org right now, and they have an article which states that almost 40% of Americans believe cancer can be cured through alternative therapies alone, according to a survey conducted by the American Society of Clinical Oncology. This is alarming because evidence shows that people who use alternative therapies in place of standard cancer treatments have much higher death rates. Alternative therapy refers to non-standard treatment used in place of standard treatment, while complementary therapy usually means methods used alongside with standard treatment. And there's also lifestyle medicine, which is a newer field that describes its approach as preventing and treating illness through healthy eating, physical activity, and other healthy behaviors without the use of medicine. And in some cases, complementary methods can help cancer patients feel better when used alongside standard treatment and with the advice of a healthcare provider. Alternative and complementary therapies are often appealing because they use your own body, your own mind, or things that may be found in nature. But sometimes these methods wrongly claim to prevent, diagnose, or treat cancer even when they have not been proven to work through scientific testing. And there are many complementary treatments which will work very well alongside your standard treatments. which you may often even be referred to during your treatment. I received a wealth of information about various therapy options available to me. There is acupuncture, which can help with pain and some types of nausea, although I'm a little hesitant to do any sort of needle-based therapy, but that's just me. There's also art or music therapy, massage therapy, which when I'm at MGH, they do have massage therapists come by. You can schedule an appointment for when you're receiving your chemo, or in my case, immunotherapy, where you can get like a foot massage while you're sitting in the chair, and you're also talking to that therapist. So that can really help you pass the time and provide a little relief while you're there for the day, or for however long you're going to be there. Yoga, Tai Chi, they're very doable on a daily basis. But then you have all of the outrageous cures and treatments and articles which can spread like wildfire on social media like Facebook or Twitter, and far too many of them are either sponsored by the people trying to sell you some miracle cure, or they are not peer-reviewed, they haven't gone any sort of clinical testing, and they're just trying to sell you some form of snake oil, which is pretty sad. Now, one of the most notorious places for, I guess you could call it, fake news is Facebook. And on this article, which I will link to in the show notes and on the website, this was posted by The Guardian, and it states that in 2016, more than half of the 20 most shared cancer articles on Facebook consisted of medically discredited claims. Now, in regards to the Facebook sharing, there were some interesting developments. Now, in 2016, in September, a website called healtheternally.com, which was registered in Phoenix, Arizona, published an article with the headline, "Dandelion Weed Can Boost Your Immune System and Cure Cancer." It was the most popular article on Facebook with the word cancer in the headline last year, receiving more than 1.4 million shares, likes, and comments, according to 2 separate web analysis tools. It was around 4 times as many as the first relevant story from a traditional news website, the New York Times, to appear on the list. Quote, "This potent root builds up blood and immune system, cures prostate, lung, and other cancers better than chemotherapy," claimed the site, citing research from Dr. Carolyn Ham at the Windsor Regional Cancer Center in Ontario, Canada. And when you searched on Google for dandelion weed cancer, it brings up little evidence-based discussion on the study and is instead dominated by headlines such as "Dandelion root kills cancer cells in lab tests," and "This plant extract forces cancer cells to commit suicide in 24 hours. And however, while the center has launched a study into the plant's potentially beneficial effects on cancer patients, Dr. Ham told The Independent that no results had yet been confirmed, and they were still just beginning to accrue patients for the trial, so there are no actual results to speak of. And then healtheternally.com did not appear to be online shortly after The Independent contacted the site for comment, but that may be temporarily down or just unrelated. And with just a couple other Facebook things, there was one article published by AnonNews.co claimed that a man had healed 5,000 people from cancer with cannabis oil, and it had been shared 58,000 times. And like earlier, half of the year's 20 most shared, liked, and commented on news stories with cancer in the headline, seen by a combined total of millions, contain claims that are all myths or the Cancer Research Center warns against on its website. These include a report published by realpharmacy.com. Now, this is Real Pharmacy, but it's spelled REALFARMACY.com. So you know this is a good source if they can't actually use the word pharmacy. And they claimed that body Acidity is the truth behind cancer, which had 584,000 Facebook engagements. And one headlined, "A secret has been uncovered. Cancer is not a disease, but a business," which had 713,000 Facebook engagements. And this website told the Independent, quote, "Do we trust the authorities and charities who lied to us for decades about sugar and cholesterol while our loved ones died as they made big sugar wealthy, or do we seek natural alternatives to complement orthodox therapy?" Now, you can use natural complements to your traditional therapy, but just foregoing what is proven treatments, like in our case with brain cancer, when we have surgery, radiation, and temozolomide, or participation in various clinical trials, those are all well documented and supported, and there's lots of peer-reviewed evidence. So you can see how quickly these articles can be spread on Facebook. And this was also in 2016 when all of the fake articles were going up all over regarding the election as well. And people were spending more and more time online and interacting with these articles. So it's really important that sites like Facebook and Twitter act to take down these fake websites or websites that are just trying to push these overpriced fake treatments on vulnerable patient populations. This goes beyond Facebook. The Wall Street Journal recently revealed that YouTube was hosting accounts with thousands of subs that promoted bogus cancer treatments. And the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, has a list of debunked claims that numbers more than 187. People pushing these sorts of cancer scams have been around longer than any of us ever have. In fact, in 1939, the UK passed the Cancer Act, which basically incriminated all sorts of these scams pushing cures and made up claims regarding cancer. Some of the most targeted patients are new patients or patients with a terminal disease, much like various brain cancers, whether it's glioblastoma or really any other type of brain cancer can be terminal. And it's very difficult to actually separate the truth from what a random article on Facebook says. And the article goes on to state that patients engaged with unproved treatments for cancer are more likely to reject conventional treatment or delay life-saving interventions. And this comes at a terrible cost. Patients who subscribe to alternative approaches are more than twice as likely to die in the same period as those who rely on conventional therapies. Even worse, the people who are pushing these alternative treatments use fear-mongering, claiming that both radiotherapy and chemotherapy are just poisons and they kill more people than they save, which is demonstrably false. But the promise of just a simple cure can be alluring to people, just as it is with all of the fake gurus and their get-rich-quick schemes, which are just pyramid schemes or Ponzi schemes or multi-level marketing. And you're not going to get rich because why wouldn't everybody else do the exact same thing, but they're only interested in selling you a course for $2,000? And that leads me to the next point on the cost of some of these treatments. There is a clinic down in Texas of a guy who's well known. He claims to cure cancer with some sort of unique therapy, and his treatments cost anywhere from $7,500 to $10,000 monthly. And there has been no evidence for his type of therapy as a treatment for cancer. And it actually gets worse. Last year, there was an investigation on Irish television that probed clinics in Istanbul that were claiming huge successes with unconventional therapies. Patients were charged more than £116,000, which is roughly equivalent to $141,000 US, and they were given the all clear while they were in Turkey. And then, according to the Irish program that investigated this, patients soon discovered that their cancers had progressed markedly when scanned after returning home. And Germany is also home to several effectively unregulated clinics presented as luxury spas but promising cures. And these are backed by fawning testimonials pitched at international customers, with treatments costing hundreds of thousands of euros despite no evidence for their efficacy. To get some of the money to pay for these treatments, some of these patients resort to crowdfunding. So people that are donating are in turn donating their money towards these alternative therapies which don't actually cure anything and have no medical evidence to support any of their claims. And in the UK alone, they had found that over £8 million had been raised since 2012 for unsubstantiated or discredited cancer treatments. One of the biggest claims that these pitches make is that somehow the big pharma and the government are suppressing the cure for cancer. And I'm not sure how to even explain this. Because not only would it take hundreds of thousands of people all over the world to keep this a secret for, some of them have said we've had this cancer since World War II or even before that. There's also the fact that there are over 200 different known cancers with thousands of different mutations. So there is no one type of cancer. And that's the exact reason that when we talk about the IDH mutations and MGMT methylation status, these two mutations have a direct effect on how well each patient will respond to Temodar, or in the case of the IDH1 mutation, that is still being studied as to why patients that have that mutation live for markedly longer periods of time post-diagnosis. And it also does not make sense because if there were, theoretically, one cure for cancer, wouldn't the pharmaceutical companies stand to make a lot more money by pushing the actual cure as opposed to just treatments? But it's these sort of conspiracy claims that these salespeople use to push their own fake treatments and cures on people. And the FDA offers a few tips to help you identify ripoffs. And these are mostly common sense, especially for those of us that know and can recognize some of the signs that stuff is just not what it says it is. Like the old saying, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So a few of the tips listed are that one product does it all. And we're going to talk about one of these products in a little bit. There was a New York firm that claimed its products marked as dietary supplements could treat or cure senile dementia, brain atrophy, atherosclerosis, kidney dysfunction, gangrene, depression, osteoarthritis, and lung, cervical, and prostate cancer. And in October 2012, U.S. Marshals seized all of these products. Personal testimonials. These can easily be faked. In fact, I just recently looked up the website of a company that I saw posted on a lawn on one of my walks the other day. And the first review on the homepage was "Great job" by Bob. That was their review. Quick fixes are another one where they say lose 30 pounds in 30 days or eliminate skin cancer in days, using the words all natural. Just because it says all natural doesn't mean it's all good. Poison ivy is all natural, but I certainly don't want to consume poison ivy or poison sumac or any sorts of poisonous foods out in nature. Just because it says it's all natural does not mean that it's actually safe. Although there are plenty of natural plants out there that we do know that are showing promise or that do have health benefits, it's really important that you can distinguish when these claims that say all natural are actually what they say they are. because sometimes they put in actual like prescription drug ingredients, or they put in all sorts of artificial stuff that has never been tested or was created in a lab overseas and you don't really know what it is. And the conspiracy theories like we talked about before. Some of the claims like, oh, the pharmaceutical industry and the government are working together to hide this information about a miracle cure. And they have no actual proof behind them, and they're used to just distract you from obvious common sense questions about the so-called cure that they're pushing on you. And if you do have any questions, always talk to your doctor to ask them for their advice. And they might be able to inform you about some of the ingredients that may be in these miracle cures or specialized cancer curing clinics or whatever they're calling themselves now. Now, I do want to talk about one of the most well-known and highly defended people that are pushing a miracle cure for not just cancer, but for everything from the common cold to HIV, AIDS, pretty much anything else. Oh, and including COVID-19, like the pandemic we're going on right now. This will also take care of that. Now, this guy, his name is Jim Humble. Let's get some background on this guy. He is a former Scientologist who claims he is a 1 billion-year-old god from the Andromeda Galaxy, and that, quote, he was asked to be put in the part of the Space Navy that watched over Earth. And he is the self-proclaimed Archbishop of the Genesis 2 Church of Health and Healing. This is an actual church now, and there are people that will defend this guy with fervor. I had looked up some YouTube videos, and every video that questioned the use of this MMS, which I'll explain what it is in just a minute, the downvotes were far more in some cases than the upvotes, and the comments were just people defending this man and saying that what we talked about earlier, that this is all Big Pharma trying to hide this, and it's so cheap that why would Big Pharma want to support something like this, because it's not going to make them any money, and that people who are using traditional treatments are just wasting their money. And that you should all at least give this a try and make your own choices. And what makes this especially bad, not just for us as cancer patients, but he is also claiming it as a cure for autism. So there are parents that are giving this treatment to their kids who have no actual say in what their parents are giving them. And that is just, it's sad on multiple levels, to be honest. Now, what is this stuff? It is the Miracle Mineral Supplement, or MMS. It is chlorine dioxide, which is an industrial bleach. It is made by mixing sodium chloride solution with an acid, such as the juices of citrus fruits. And this mixture produces chlorine dioxide, a toxic chemical that in high oral doses can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and life-threatening low blood pressure due to dehydration. And there is a video of this Jim Humble saying that these nausea and vomiting and diarrhea, that's not a medical condition. That's not you being sick. Nobody ever complained about having a sore stomach. And this sodium chloride, the main constituent of it, is a toxic chemical that can cause acute kidney failure if ingested. And small amounts of about 1 gram can be expected to cause the side effects we talked about before with the nausea, vomiting, shedding of the internal mucous membranes, such as those of the small and large intestines. And there have been no clinical trials to test these claims, which only come from anecdotal reports and his book, which, of course, you'll have to buy the book. And there have been at least 4 people arrested in the United States for selling this stuff, although it is still readily available online. MMS is not approved for the treatment of any disease, and according to the United States EPA, chronic exposure to small doses of chlorine dioxide could cause reproductive and neurodevelopmental damage. And while studies of its effects in humans are rare, in animal subjects, it has been shown to impair thyroid function and reduce CD4 helper T cells counts, and it reduced blood cell counts in exposed doses of 100 milligrams per liter in mice. And the U.S. Department of Labor restricts occupational exposure through inhalation of chlorine dioxide to 0.1 ppm, since concentrations at 10 ppm resulted in death in rats after 10 days, and a worker accidentally exposed to 19 ppm died. And it is also a severe respiratory and eye irritant in humans. So we know that this sounds very dangerous, and I had responded to a video on YouTube about it, and I'm going to pull up the comments thread that I got here. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to edit out my mouse clicks. Okay, so all I asked was, are there any peer-reviewed studies that were done on this? And I got a response that over 3 million people on YouTube have put up testimonials, and they can't all be telling lies. And people have more important things to do, like live now that MMS has helped their condition. Check it for yourself. And I responded that that's a no. And I got a response that because it's too cheap to make Big Pharma money, it costs $26 and lasts you about 10 years easy. So there are no big money benefits, just health benefits. And Pharma doesn't care about the health. They want money for expensive drugs that take years to develop so they can justify the price. Take it or don't take it. No one cares. Just leave more for us to combat COVID-19. What are you going to use? Good luck? And I responded with something along the lines of that's still not any sort of evidence. And then I didn't respond after this one that I'm not going to spoon feed you the info. Go investigate for 60 hours for free, because everybody has 60 free hours to go research this stuff. You want someone else to investigate it for $26? Any chemical grad student can show you it's not bleach. It's sodium chloride, a whole different thing. And along with the fluoride in your water, it's just a tiny amount anyway as a disinfectant. Otherwise, they'd have to put bleach in your water. And you said you don't want to drink bleach. So they use acidified sodium chloride, which this was very poorly written, and it was one long run-on sentence. It's used as a test dip for control of something in dairy cattle and as sanitation for hard surfaces which come into contact with foods such as meat, poultry, seafoods. That was about it. So I was provided no link to any sort of peer-reviewed articles, and especially if over 3 million people had put up testimonials, I would think that the pharmaceutical industry would have invested a little bit of time into doing some sort of trials on this or extensive research. But nope, I'm the bad one for asking for evidence or proof or anything like that, I guess. But it's very easy to see how these people can get wrapped up in this. And for something which is so toxic, I'm not sure how they can justify taking something which is not only a disinfectant, but it's an acid, and you have a digestive system which relies on millions and millions of helpful bacteria to break down your food. And if you're taking some sort of bleach or disinfectant, wouldn't you also be killing all of the good bacteria that's in your gut as well? I mean, I haven't researched this, but that just seems to make sense, that if I drink something which is like a bleach, it's just going to kill everything and destroy my throat on the way down. But I just wanted to talk about this one in particular because I didn't really realize how much it was touted online, and that the people who are into this stuff claim that it will literally do everything but don't have any evidence to back up any of their claims, and that when people get sick, it's their own fault. So I think we're going to start to wrap this episode up. I'm not sure if I really covered everything that I wanted to on this episode, but I don't want them to be too long. But if there's one thing to take away, it's that be very careful of some of the scams which are all over Facebook or that claim to be some sort of cure-all or easy way out, because when it comes to cancer in particular, and those of us which all have brain cancer or are caring for somebody with brain cancer, there will be a lot of difficult times. That's pretty much a given, but you have to be very careful to buy into some of these expensive treatments which have no actual scientific backing or that promise that you will be cancer-free in X number of days, because it's just not feasible. And there are plenty of things that you can do in combination with your current treatment, like eating properly, exercising. There are other things you can take that are beneficial to your health in general. Like, I always take a multivitamin, and there are the other complementary treatments that we talked about early on, like the yoga and acupuncture and massage therapy, things like that, which will also really help your mental state and mental well-being at a very complicated time in your life. And then on top of that, talking to a therapist is always a good idea as well, and they can help you put things like brain cancer diagnosis into perspective. Future Chris here. I just wanted to say, make sure you stick around till the end of the episode, and before the music rolls, you can listen to me hilariously stumble over a word that I tried over and over to get, but I eventually got it. So if you want to hear more of these outtakes and parts that I mess up on, just let me know. I don't mind adding them at all. All right, back to the episode. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for tuning in. I'm sorry if this episode was a little bit all over the place. I tried to go in some sort of order, but once again, I need to get a second monitor so I can put all of these articles and notes that I have on a second monitor, and that would make it a lot easier for me to be able to reference back and forth and also avoid having mouse clicks audible in the show, because I really don't like having you have to listen to my mouse clicks. But I am going to call it here, and I will get to editing this, and I'll get it out as soon as I can. And I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, ideas, just let me know. Either email or Twitter or Discord, Facebook, whatever. I am on Twitter at BrainCancerPod, or on Facebook at facebook.com/braincancerpodcast. You can always email me at braincancerpodcast@gmail.com. And please be sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you are, so you'll get notified whenever the next show goes up. And if you could give it a rating, I think you can do ratings on some of the others. I know you can on Apple. That would be appreciated. And if you have any ideas for any topics in the future, just let me know. But thank you once again for listening. I hope you all stay safe. We are still in the midst of this pandemic, but we can see the light on the other side. We are going to get through this. So I hope you're all well. Feel free to reach out if you need me for anything at all. And have a great night. Bye. Atherosclerosis.